Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Gamers Lunch Break. I am Bryce Whitaker. Welcome to the show. Today is the end of season 1 of our show. If you have liked it, please visit us on YouTube, like and subscribe. There's 13 episodes you can see. We would love to hear your feedback on season 2. Guests, format, whatever you want to say, let us know on YouTube and Twitch. We're also on Twitch. I'd also like to tell our fans out there, DB Jockey Games, if you like Bang, if you like Detective or Deckscape, or maybe you're curious about Wonderbook, we will be at Gen Con this year. So stop by the booth and see me, say, hey, I'd love to meet you, love to talk games with you. We will be at Gen Con having a blast. Well, this takes me to my guest today. He is a game designer from Canada. I've spent many a con with him, playing his games, and he played some of mine, I think, over the years. So let's welcome Sean Garrity to the show. How you doing, Sean?
Good. How you doing, Bryce?
Good. It's good to see you. Now, you're up there in Winnipeg. What's the weather like today?
It is hot. Very hot. Not what maybe people expect, but yeah, it's...
Yeah, certainly not what we expect from Canada. It's a little. I think it's warming up here in Indiana, so we may be in for a hot weekend. Sean, let's talk a little bit about when. I always love to ask game designers what were you doing? When was it you said I'm going to be a game designer? Was there a special game or moment when all that came around?
No, I've always been creative, and it's really not important to me. Well, it is, but as long as I'm being creative in some sort of way, it doesn't really matter in some ways what the medium is.
Sure.
And so, I've done writing, and I've done plays, and I've done acting, and that kind of a thing. And then when the world of modern board games kind of revealed itself to me, I kind of went, hey, maybe I can do this. And so I decided, hey, let's give it a try.
Sure. Now, you told me that one of the early games in your kind of formative game experiences was Risk.
Yes.
And that was one of mine. My dad had played it, and at a very early age, I wanted to play and couldn't understand the game. But from Risk, where did you go?
Risk kind of faded out for me, because I felt that there was too much luck involved.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went on to, and we talked about this, the Stratomatic sports, the baseball, football, and hockey. I don't know if you guys even got the hockey down where you
in Fort Wayne. We do. We have a minor league hockey team called the Comets. Yeah.
Well, we certainly got Stratomatic hockey up here and played it. And that we did that for a while, and then back to D&D. And then someone introduced me to the Settlers of Catan, which for a lot of us of our age, that was one of the big gateway games at the time.
Sure. Yeah.
So there was Catan and Carcassonne at the time, and Citadels.
Oh, yeah.
The cheap ass games like Kill Dr. Lucky.
Before I Kill You, Mr. Bond. That was one of them.
I have that downstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all that kind of thing is kind of what brought me back in, and then I decided, I wanted to give it a try.
Now, your first game design was
Good Help.
Good Help. Tell us a little bit about Good Help.
Good Help is you're just starting out as an evil doctor, and you move back to the small Eastern European town you grew up in to start your revenge and build your first monster. But you need assistance to help you out in what you're doing, but you're not paying them very much because you're just starting out. So they're not very reliable. So eventually you got to get through all the troubles with your assistants to get them body parts back to your castle, build your monster, and then send it back to the center of town to destroy all the buildings that you've been using to get your parts. And yeah, so that if you destroy a certain number of buildings, then you're the winner.
Yeah. Now, so this game is very novel to me, but now, particularly in the past just few months, we're seeing a kind of a old school, maybe Universal monster kind of resurgence.
Yeah.
In games like Horrified, I believe on Kickstarter right now, there's some sort of legacy monster game as well. But you were in the cutting edge of that. You were like, no, this is a monster game we all need, and it was way ahead of all of these games. Where did you what were you a fan of the old monster movies or stories?
Yeah, and actually, probably one of the biggest influences for that game was Mel Brooks' Young Frankenstein.
Sure.
Which is a fabulous film.
Yeah. So you went from that to what are some of the other titles that you've worked on?
I went on from that one. The next one was Banditos, where you're basically it's set in the 1980s, and you play a character in the southern U.S. and you're running into Mexico to rob Mexican banks and bring the money home. There's a lot of pop culture references.
Sure. Little Pulp Fiction kind of thing. Yeah. So you chose to found your own company, Baksha Games, and then tell me, everybody wants to know when you're a starting game designer and you decide maybe you're going to try the self-publishing route.
Right.
And you have a lot of success with it as you do, but they kind of want to know what your day is like when you're running everything, and how time consuming is it. What advice do you give people out there that think, well, maybe I should just be a CEO of the company of my games?
Well, I started the company in 2010.
Okay.
And I mean, really, it's not that long ago, but from what's happened in the last 11 years, it really is a long time ago in the board game world. Yeah. There were, I don't know, probably 4,000 or 5,000 games a year being put out total back then. Maybe my numbers are off, but I think I'm in the neighborhood. And now you're looking at what, 200,000 at least? Yeah.
So, and Kickstarter in 2010 was kind of a different beast.
Yeah.
Than what it is now as well.
Yeah. I'm not even sure. Well, certainly for the grand masses of board gamers, Kickstarter wasn't a thing.
Right. Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
So, again, it's really, really changed. So when I started this up, it was very different because it was all about getting in stores. Social media really wasn't a big thing. You needed a website and you needed a little bit of a presence on Facebook and that kind of a thing. Twitter wasn't really even a thing. Neither was Instagram. I mean,
yeah.
So starting up today is way different than when I started up because you have to be a social media mogul to do it now. Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of different hats that you wear today that you may have not worn back in 2010 or a little before that.
Yeah. But even so, I mean, back then you still had to wear the designer hat where you still have to design a good game.
Right.
And you still have to either do the art yourself, or if you're not capable of that, like I'm not, then you have to hire the right artist and be the art director. You have to be the accountant.
Yeah.
You got to be on top of all those things.
Yeah. Do you enjoy those things, or or is there, you like design obviously because you're a designer, but do you like the other things as much as that, or do you really just love the design space?
The design space is the number one reason for doing it, no question.
Sure. And this leads to another question I have. I always ask my game designers on the show this. We talk about creativity and problem solving, and there's a lovely little lecture that John Cleese from Monty Python gave several years ago on creativity, talking about the open mode and the closed mode, and how you find inspiration. So when you're faced with a problem, a design problem, how much do you sit there and really, really work at it, or how much do you let it stay there and go about your life, and then inspiration hits?
I kind of do both.
Yeah.
But really, I think probably the one that's more useful for me is to just shut it down, let it sit, and something will come to me in the shower.
Right. I'm very much the same way. I tried to work through problems, and I would get solutions by working at them, but they weren't the best solutions. Yeah. And I found when I stepped away, it took a while, maybe a week, maybe a month, but at some point you got a better deal out of it. Yeah.
Just a different perspective just offers,
Sure.
And that's where playtesting comes in as well. You've got to have a good group of playtesters, and it's hard to have one of those and keep one of those because you don't want to burn them out.
Yeah.
Which is a common problem.
Is that I would think from a Canadian side of things, and maybe being indoors more than some people in the lower 48 here, does that lead to maybe not better playtesting, but does that lead to a bigger pool of people for playtesting?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah.
Just got to find your tribe.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of local playtesting, or do you send the game out to a lot of different people around?
I do it locally.
Okay.
I prefer to be in on it, and I will do blinds. Definitely, I'll do some blind testing and give it to groups where I'm not even in the room, and you have a set of rules to read and go for it, because that's really important, especially for the rules writing of it. It's when I'm trying to get the mechanics down and tweak stuff, I want to be in the room.
Yes.
So that I can have that discussion with people as it's happening. But once you think you're happy with the rule set, blind testing is essential for rules clarity.
Yeah, and to find the holes that your mind is so focused on A that you kind of forgot B could lead to C. Yeah, I find that's very true. I like to be in the room too. I like to control what the feedback is I'm getting to fully understand the design, and then you got to send it out, because all your groups have a way they all work. Yeah. And when you give it to somebody else that you don't know, their people are going to work in a completely different way.
Yeah. But you've also, it really helps if you can find one of your friends that is the hole poker.
Yeah.
For want of a better term,
Yeah, this is real common for me in Baker Street. When I created the clue cards, I found that my syntax and the way I was talking and writing was giving away the clues to my players. So blindly, people couldn't figure it out, but locally, they understood the way I talked and presented things and could always pick the right clue. And so I had to learn to write every clue as if I thought that was the right answer. And then it worked. And it took a while to figure that out. Let's talk a little bit about your game, A Little Drop of Poison. What can you tell us about that?
That's a bit of a departure for me, because I normally had been designing games that were a little longer. Your couple hour type of games. I had just finished doing What's He Building in There, and that's a couple hours if you've got 4 to 6 people kind of thing. But Little Drop of Poison is a quick little fun backstabby game that you can play in 15 minutes. So we often get in several in a sitting. And it just this one just kind of came to me in a flash. I was listening to some music, and for anyone who's may have put 2 and 2 together, What's He Building in There and Little Drop of Poison are both songs by Tom Waits.
I didn't put that together, but yeah.
Now, really, I mean, they have nothing to do with song. It's just the titles, and I kind of went, this would be a good title for a game. And then this kind of design just kind of popped into my head, almost fully made. It was because it's a simple game.
Sure.
And it took me. This is the complete anomaly to certainly my experience with game design. And I almost got the balance for this game right on the first try.
Wow.
It needed like 2 little tweaks for number of different colored poisons and that kind of a thing, and I haven't needed to change it because it just works so nicely.
Yeah. Now let me tell you. Let me ask you, Sean, because this has been a conversation with some of the other game designers that I've had on. With Stab Your Buddy in the Back games, which are some of my favorite games to play. What I'm finding is that the shorter the play often equals the greater enjoyment. And I point out that the first Stab Your Buddy in the Back game I played was Unta, which was a great game until it suddenly became a war game, and you were moving armies across the board, and you were trying to get that part of the game done to get back to the core, cash flow, kill people kind of thing.
Right.
Do you think that's true? Do you think that Stab Your Buddy in the Back games are better when they're quicker?
Well, I did have a bad experience with some of your backstabby games where you get eliminated so early, and then you'd have to sit there for half an hour or whatever. Or you'd get into a situation where you've been backstabbed fairly early, and then there's just no recovery, and it's a bit of a grind just to finish it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the other things that I wanted Little Drop of Poison to be, is that you're going to be back and on a level playing field again in 2 minutes.
Right.
There's several rounds within a game, and you start fresh in every one of those. So you may be killed without really getting much of a turn, but you're going to be back, and be able to get back at the other person, which is I think that's what makes those games. Even if I point out like Cyclades, which is part war game, part Euro, they still have a rule that protects players who are down to one island, and they can get more gold and they get back in the game quickly. Yeah. And I think that's true of those games. If I'm remembering right, in Unta, you might have played a new character, but you came back in. But yeah, I think that people love the little stab your games. Jeff was on here and we talked about Lifeboat, and Lifeboat plays pretty quick, and you're back in. If you're out of the game, then it's almost over. I think that's a fascinating design element that we've seen, and all games get shorter. I think as time goes on, people have attention spans in life issues, but I find it very interesting, in particular Stab Your Buddy in the Back.
kind of games. Yeah. So let me ask you. He did Good Help. What's he building in there? A Little Drop of Poison. Um, what what are you working on? What could you tell us that is in the design Sean's design studio right now?
In the design studio right now, I have a game ready to go actually, but the for tiny publishers, it's not a good time to be trying to put a game out with the increase in printing costs and of course shipping going kablooey. But I do have a game ready to go. It's called Return of the Dragon Bunny. It's a bit of a longer game. It's a Euro type kind of a thing, and it takes place in the Middle Ages, and the king has sent all of the able-bodied men off to fight in the Crusades, and that's exactly the time that a creature of legend comes back, eats the regent, and demands tribute from everybody. and all that's left to deal with this creature are the old men and women and kids and cowards. So you take some of the cowards from your village, you play the village elder, and you try and build up these cowards to the point where they can go and try and kill the dragon bunny. And whoever ends up killing the dragon bunny is the winner.
I like how all of your games have this little element of humor in all.
Have to.
Yeah. I really enjoy that. So obviously with the pandemic, you probably haven't been. Well, there hasn't been many shows. But in the past, I know from being at shows with you, you have a pretty good following. You may have a pretty good imprint. Are you looking forward to getting back to conventions? What's going on there?
I would love to go back.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I don't think that's happening this year.
Yeah, that's understandable. Yeah, I think there's probably another year before we really grapple with this in North America.
Yeah, kind of next summer. I'm hoping to be back in full swing.
That'd be great. It'd be great to see you. For people that want to find you, where can they find you?
Basically, information about my games and so on is on my website, baksagames.com.
Okay.
And if I have any announcements or anything like that, then I have a Facebook page.
Great.
For announcements.
So they can find you on Facebook. Yeah. Well, let's see. I might have a couple other things for you here. I'm looking over your bio. We talked a little bit about here. Now, you talked a little bit about Settlers, but I don't think you told us the fans out there, your little connection to Settlers, which isn't a little connection. You were quite the player, right?
I did used to play competitively, and I did win the Canadian Championships, and I won a trip basically to go to Essen to play in the first World Championships.
Wow.
That was a lot of fun. That was and that was part of my kind of the big eye opening of what board games was starting to become, because that was 2001.
Wow.
And so even Essen was very different back then from what it is now, because I've been going for the last 8 or 9 years as a publisher. But back in 2001, it was very eye-opening to me and some of the games that were coming out. I mean, obviously I knew about Catan and Carcassonne and some of the other ones that were playing at that point.
Sure. So you've gone to Essen for several years. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you have a lot of friends and contacts and things there?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. It's not a fair that I've got to go to yet, but I really hope someday I'll be able to visit it.
So it's a blast.
Yeah. All right, Sean. Well, is there anything you want to say to anybody out there before we end the show today?
Stay safe. Keep gaming.
All right. Sean, it's been great to have you here. Sean from Baksha Games. Remember, folks, you can look up Good Help. What's he building in there? Little Drop of Poison, Banditos. He has several other titles as well. He would love to hear from you. He's a great friend, game designer. Love seeing him at the show as we always have a nice little conversation. Sean, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Bryce.
All right. I just want to say to everybody out there, once again, we will be at Gen Con. And if you are looking for Nightmare in the Mirror, it's available in North America, Detective Nightmare in the Mirror. And so is Deckscape, Crew versus Crew. So please check those games out and have fun. And we'll see you after the summer break. Like and subscribe. Come see us on YouTube. Tell us what you want to see from Season 2. Tell me if I'm doing a good job. Tell me if I'm doing a bad job. Tell me what game designers I need to be talking to. For Gamers Lunch Break, this has been Bryce Whitaker. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Bye.